Hello, my friends. There, I'm live. Long time no see. This once a month thing, I don't know. I'm gonna have to get used to it because it just feels so long in between. But here we are, and it's a big topic today, and I've been thinking about it a lot. And we're gonna dig in. Um, And of course, at first, if you're here, please let me know. I always love knowing that you're here. And also, as you see, it's not my customary background. I actually am creating an on-camera space in my extra bedroom. And so I'm kind of in the midst of that right now, and it's a bit of a mess, and I don't have any lighting, and it's all weird. So I just moved into my booth. So I'm going to count on you to let me know that you can hear me and that you can see me and that all is well. Um, and again, yeah, let me know that you're here because I love knowing that you're here. Um, so we're going to, well, you know, I ask you all what you need help with, in the realm of voiceover um, and I was particularly struck by this comment that came up in a Monday meme. When I asked, "What topics would you like for me to consider speaking on during the lives?" And this one came up, and it just really it just struck me. Um, how many people, I'm fairly confident, suffer at one time or another with depression. And so I thought I would just bite the bullet and jump in and talk about my own. And which leads me to the number one thing I want to say, and that is that I'm not a doctor and I'm not a therapist and I have no training whatsoever in this field. And it's very complex, I think. So, um, I just want to say that right off the bat, and I will say it again in the middle of this. Um, oh, Genevieve, good. Thank you so much. I'm very glad to know. Whenever you change spaces, it's like, is this working now? So I'm glad to know. Thank you. Um, so uh, the only thing that I'm drawing on is my own experience personally, and then watching my family members and some friends who have contended with depression and anxiety. I will add that in because they often go hand in hand. They're often two sides to the same coin. And so again, I want to I want to reiterate that these are things that I have learned from my own therapists and my own experience and my own reading. Not a doctor. Um, so um, So here's the thing. I want to say that depression is different than sadness. And I think there is a great prevalence of sadness in us. Um, I think that life is hard right now. I think the world is difficult right now. Um, just in the scheme of things, as artists and creative people, we have plans and we have dreams, and a lot of those things don't come to fruition, much to our chagrin. And those things can make us sad, right? And so the distinction, as I understand it, is that sadness is a feeling, and it's a very real feeling that you have. It's definable, you know? Um, and again, there are so many reasons that a person could be sad. So, uh, but I think it's important to make the distinction because depression, again, as I understand it, the symptoms are more like, I don't care. and I don't want to, and whatever. Sleepiness, which can then at night turn into sleeplessness, tiredness, lethargy, an inability to summon your will to do the things that you love and the things that you want to do, and to be with the people that you really want to be with. So it's a kind of despondency that really doesn't feel like anything. It feels like nothing matters. So I know for myself when I say, sometimes I'll say sort of in a cursory way, like, oh, I'm so depressed. And then I have to stop myself, because the word is so often misused, just like narcissism is misused. Just because somebody breaks up with us and has been a jerk for a minute, it doesn't make them clinically narcissistic, right? You can be a jerk and not be a narcissist. And so it's an overuse of the word, and then all of a sudden it diminishes, what the real and genuine meaning of the word is. And, there is clinical narcissism and there is clinical depression. And it is different than just that kind of, oh, things aren't going my way today and I'm so depressed. It's more like I'm really sad, that things aren't working right now, that kind of thing. So I just want to say again, it's like the symptoms are more like, I don't care, I don't want to, and it's like whatever. It's sort of characterized by that word, like whatever, it's whatever. Lethargy. You can't find the will to do the things that you want to do and be with the people that you want to be with. It's kind of a state of no feelings, right? So when you make that distinction, right, between sadness and depression, if you let the symptoms of sadness go too long, it can turn into depression. That's the tricky thing about it, right? So let me tell you my story. I've had two instances in my life where I was diagnosed to possibly be depressed. I'll tell you about the first one second. The second one, I had gone to see a therapist because I was struggling in my marriage. And after seeing this therapist for about 2 years, she suggested to me that I might be depressed and asked me to talk to a colleague of hers, because my doctor could not prescribe, and she thought that perhaps I would benefit from that. And so I went and spoke to this really quite marvelous doctor who did, in fact, prescribe Zoloft for me. So this is me. I'm not saying anything about what you need or any. I'm not advocating for any drug, and I'm really not advocating for any drug, really. But I took it for 2 years, and then I titrated off of it, and it helped. It helped because sometimes medication can, if this is so not clinical, again, just like bear with me. But sometimes when you're in a particular state too long, certain synapses in your brain just kind of separate and they're not firing properly. And so it is thought that SSRIs can help sort of reconnect those synapses, and that you stay on a drug like that for 18 months to 2 years, and it really solidifies the connection again, such that you can wean yourself off of it and things remain connected, and you're all right. So that for me was an instance where I was sad for so long. That was what was recommended to me. That's the advice I took, and it worked for me. And again, I stress that it worked for me. Um, I had really good care, with a therapist who really knew me. I think that is crucial, right? Um, the first time that I was diagnosed with depression, it was postpartum depression. So it was about 6 months after my daughter was born, and my life had been turned upside down. I'd had a career. I was 41 with a newborn. Um, my hormones dropped like, lead. So I was just sort of all chemically messed up. And then on top of it, I got a terrible bout of vertigo. Hi, John. I got a terrible bout of vertigo, which made me really terrified. And I had a newborn. And so my depression kind of manifested as anxiety. So I was a real anxious mess. And my internist at the time, again, someone who'd known me for 15 years, you know, suggested to me that I take an antidepressant for a while. There was nothing long extended. He was very clear, like, you're in sort of circumstantial depression, if you will. You're in a really crazy phase of your life, and all these things came crashing in on you and all at once. So, which leads me to this notion, right, of circumstantial depression. One can travel into a state of circumstantial depression, and then some people are chemically depressed, like they are genetically predisposed, and those are two different ways. I'm sure there are other ways, but again, here I am again, not a doctor, not a therapist, not well read on the subject. But so again, these are just my circumstances. And so I was on that particular drug, Lexapro, which, let me tell you, I like it was wild. It was like I could have handled any stressor that you threw my way. It was very unnatural, It's like I didn't get mad, and I mean, I laughed a little, but it pulled me out of this constant state of fear that I was in. I did not feel that anymore, and that was a huge, huge relief to me. So, um, so those are my two experiences, right, with not only being diagnosed with depression, but also my experiences of being on a couple of antidepressants. And, there's a lot of controversy about antidepressants. I I'm not a big fan of pharmaceuticals in general, but I cannot. Um, there are just too many people who know so much more than I do. And the key for me was having caretakers that knew me, right? That knew my health, that knew my history, that knew um, my life, my spouse, my child. It's like they knew me. And I think that is a huge piece of my willingness to take drugs that I ordinarily would have been like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Along with those things, in the interim and as a part of everything, I guess what I'm getting at here is I'm not I'm not suggesting that, hey, try an SSRI if you're depressed. I'm not, because I think that I think each of us has a responsibility to kind of say, am I depressed or am I sad? And if I'm sad, there are things that I can do, like active, you know, real world things that can help me to make sure that I don't sort of drift off into a state of chemical depression that then is really helped by a pharmaceutical. So what does that mean to a voiceover career? Like, what does that mean, to what we're here to do, and what we're here to talk about? Well, I think that it is imperative for us to stay connected and in contact with our friends. In particular, friends that really love you and really know you. There's a beautiful story that I just heard this morning that I was like, oh, I could not be more perfect. I don't know if you guys are aware of this motivational speaker. His name is Simon Sinek, I think is how you pronounce it. And he told this amazing story of having a friend who had gone through a very, very difficult time. And I don't know why, he didn't say, but just a very, very difficult time. And his friend had invited him over for dinner, and he went, and he was like, I'm so sorry that you have been going through such a hard time, and at the same time, he was kind of mad at his friend because, and he said to her, why didn't you call me? Like, why didn't you let me know? I would have run to your side. I would have helped you. And she said, I did ask for help. And he said, when? Like, when did you ask for help? And they went to their phones and scrolled a little bit. And there were several texts where she said, do you want to come over? And he said, how am I supposed to know that do you want to come over is different than every other do you want to come over? And so they had this discussion, and she talked about some article that she read that it takes 8 minutes for someone who is going through something really difficult. It takes 8 minutes of talking with a friend to help them right the ship in the moment, right? Like to get them find balance again. And so they made this pact. This makes me verklempt. They made this pact where they would text each other, and if something was urgent and they were really needed, that they would say, do you have 8 minutes? So here's where I think each of us has to be brave. We have to ask our friends for help. And I would suggest to you that you find 1 or 2 or 3 people that you know, and make that pact. Have the code. Find a code, right? So that you can know when I'm not just inviting you over for a salad and a glass of wine, but that I need you. So that's number 1. Sorry. So that's number 1. To stay in contact with friends who love you. And if you feel like you don't have friends that love you, then step into your acquaintances that seem trustworthy to you. And of course, if you're really, really suffering, there are certainly, organizations that you can call and churches that you can call. So keep that in mind too, if there's really some real trouble going on, right? Get outside, get some sun without sunscreen. You need the sun. it's amazing what happens to us in the sun. It's really like it's our partner in health. We get things from the sun, you know, and not don't go out to exercise, go out to walk, to breathe, right? And get air in your lungs and to feel a little wind on your skin. Walk barefoot if you can and connect yourself to what's real, to what's real. In terms of what do you do in the booth, right? What do you do when you're like, I don't wanna. I think in those moments, you know, we really have to be kind to ourselves. And if you've got, you know, 5 auditions sitting in front of you, just commit to one. This is the experience that I've had when I've been like, oh my God, I can't get in the booth. There's too much there. It's overwhelming. I don't want to. I just want to roll over in bed. I don't want to. And I just make a deal that I'll do one. And 9 times out of 10, I end up doing another and another and another until I'm done, you know, until I feel like I'm done. Whether that means I've done them all or whether I've done 3, right? And just the act of doing that will infuse you with, what do I want to say? I don't know if it's energy or just the tiniest little sense of accomplishment, but it helps. You know, it helps. You can kind of say to yourself, okay, I did that. You know. And know that if on a certain day you can't do it, then you can't do it. And it's okay, because tomorrow is coming and tomorrow has more opportunity. It always does. And you know, if on a particular day you wake up and there's nothing in your inbox, then you go, which might make you feel more sad. You know, I mean, it's crazy. But it's like, take the opportunity to do good things for yourself, to do nice things for yourself, to eat well and drink water and get outside and whatever might make you feel better and like you are worth doing something for, because you are, you know. This is so not a, you know, an exhaustive help manual, you know. But I think it's our connection to each other that that really matters most. And I'll tell you something else I wanted to say. I think a part of what makes us sad and feel despondent and can lead us into depression in the realm of voiceover is that we intrinsically, and that's not right, intrinsic is not the word, it is what it is. It is such that that we work alone, and we get very little perspective about what the real world of voiceover, what's going on, right? I can tell you that very few of us are working like we used to. This has been an extraordinarily slow time. You know, we're contending with all this new technology. We've got, as far as the unions go, you know, we've got this strike referendum and that contract being worked on, and rates getting dumbed down, uh, and and then it's an election year. There's trepidation everywhere. There's hesitation and reluctance everywhere in the air. And it affects us too. It affects what we do. Guess what? If businesses aren't booming, they're not putting their dollars in advertising. They're not redesigning their brands. It affects all of us and what we do. We're like, we're the trickle down thing. When people have, when certainly young businesses have capital to spend to advertise, big corporations, they've got their advertising budgets and all that, but it shrinks, right? And so does our work. So that's just reality. So let me tell you that you're not the only person who's not working. Okay. Last week, it's the 16th today. I think it was April 8th. I had my first 2 jobs of the year. First two, April into the second quarter. So very few of us are working like we're accustomed to, and very few of us are admitting it. So I'm admitting it. I'm telling you the truth, right? Because we have to get and stay real. We have to be real about this, right? Darkness dissipates with light. A room can be pitch black, and you light one little match, and you can see, right? So we have to tell the truth about what is happening in our careers. We do. And so what? It's like if somebody thinks less of me as a voice actor because I haven't worked, I didn't work the first quarter of the year. Well, I don't. Okay, like I I contend. I figure it out. But I'm not gonna keep it a secret, because that doesn't do anybody in the business any favors, because it perpetuates this myth that voiceover is a big money-making business, and you too, can earn 6 figures, So we just have to tell the truth. And so I just want to relieve you if you are feeling sad, despondent, depressed, because you're not working like you think you should be. It's okay. It is a slow time. And in slow times, this is how I have survived for 40 years. In slow times, you do all the other things that when you're busy, you don't have time for. You do a marketing campaign, even if it's just by email, and not so you don't have to spend a bunch of money, right? You take a listen to your demos and go, do these accurately represent me? Is there some work I've done that I can add to my demo? I'm not talking about going out and spending a bunch of money on demos. I'm just talking about is there something I can do to update this thing to make me go, this is refreshed? Then do that, right? If you're able to get into a group, and continue working out, do that. These are, again, almost all of these things are about connection, right? So if we're sad and lost and feel hopeless about our careers, these are the ways in which we pull ourselves up. And I'm not talking about bootstrapping. I'm talking about reaching a hand out so that somebody can lift you, right? That's what it is. And I think for the most part, the voiceover world has been a really great community for helping each other. There are some interlopers whose highest, goal is not to help, but what? That's life, the more widespread that voiceover gets, the more like the rest of life it looks, right? But for the most part, we are a group of people who really um, care about each other. And it's a remarkable thing. It's a remarkable thing. So I don't think that I veered off topic on this by saying all of that. I think it's all connected, because so much of our exasperation with our careers, which leads us to, what am I doing wrong? What did I do? Why isn't it working? And all of those thoughts and feelings lead us into a state of sadness, which can lead us into depression. Because when we get sad, when we get to the sort of the dark side of sadness, we start to feel hopeless. And when we feel hopeless, then we go, well, what does it matter if I even try? And so, yeah. So I'm going to say it again. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm speaking only from my own experiences and the things that I have seen in my friends and my family members. And I'll tell you, if you're someone who is if someone is calling you with their doubts and their fears and their depression, if you will, their sadness, I can say that it's just the friends who were willing to sit with me that made all the difference. And were just able to say to me, I see you. I see you and I'm with you. And I'm here for you. They didn't try to talk me out of anything. And they didn't try to cheerlead me or anything like that. They just let me know that they were with me. My therapist used to call it sitting on the mourning bench with you. That's what she would say to me. I'm sitting on the mourning bench with you. There's no, it's just being with. And it's it means everything. So if you're in a position, right, where you are asked for help, I think if you don't know what to do, and if you say, how can I help you? And someone says, I don't know, then I think to be able to say, well, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm here for you. Yeah. I think that is, I think it's crucial. So, and again, I think I've said this like 10 times. Not a therapist, and I don't think any of us ought to have the expectation that our friends are therapists either. And I think particularly if someone has gone through a very difficult thing in life, whether they've lost someone, whether they've lost a piece of their health, or that to simply offer to be with is really, I think, and to abide. That's the word. I love that word, to abide. It's just to be with. I think that's the ticket. So I think I want to say in closing, that there is no shame in asking for help. None. None. Not from your friends, not from medical professionals. I'm a huge fan of therapy, particularly when you get the right therapist. And I've said, I've said goodbye to a therapist or two because it didn't work. It didn't feel right. Like I didn't feel seen or respected or allowed to be myself, which is like, oh my goodness, that's That's you have to be, free to be exactly who you are, with a therapist. So, um, so if you think you need professional help, I totally encourage and applaud you uh, for reaching out and getting the help that you need. So, um, I think that is all. I do want to reiterate that lovely story from Simon Sinek, where to ask a friend or two, um, you know, to engage that code, whatever you decide the code is going to be. Do you have 8 minutes? Do you have 8 minutes? And as Simon Sinek said, everybody can leave a meeting for 8 minutes to help someone else. So, um, that's it, my friends. It's really a privilege to talk to you, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity and the time and your attention. So, what's next? Let me know in the comments what else you might want me to address, and I hope this was helpful. Um, uh, yeah. Okay. That's it. I hope that you have a really good day, and I will see you. I'll see you in a month. I think I'm going to see you the week that I'm going to Barcelona for the VO Euro retreat. So I've never done that before, so that should be interesting. um, and to remind you as well that the One Voice conference is coming up in Dallas. I think it's the second weekend in August, and I'm super excited because I'm going to teach a workshop in acting for video games. Very excited about that. Gives me, I'm excited to develop it, and so I hope you can come, and I'll talk to you long before then. I'll talk to you the first week in May, and I'll see you online. All right, my friends. Take good care of each other. Let us do that, shall we? Mwah.